Hello again, fairbinaryoptions.com, second part on how to trade the euro US dollar. And when it comes to the currency markets, the most important thing to look for is represented by central banks. The central bank in Eurozone or in Europe, it is being called the ECB or the European Central Bank. And in the United States, on the other hand, we are having the Federal Reserve of the United States or the Fed. Now, these central banks are meeting, and this is all that matters when it comes to currency tradings, because they are meeting on a regular basis, trying to establish the state of the economy, what happened from the previous meeting all the way until the current ones, if the economy improved, if the inflation picks up, and so on and so forth, and trying to, and each and every central bank tries to fulfill their mandate. Now, the mandate is to keep inflation, of course, and in the United States also to create jobs. So when jobs data out of the United States or inflation is coming, definitely volatility will be. So ECB, you should keep your eye on the economic calendar for when the ECB is meeting and when the Federal Reserve is meeting. Nowadays, the ECB used to meet every month, but nowadays the ECB is meeting every 6 weeks. And the same in the United States, the Fed is meeting every 6 weeks. The interest rate decision is not that important in Europe. It is being called the minimum bid rate. The minimum bid rate. But what's important is the press conference to follow. Every time, 45 minutes later, after the minimum bid rate that is being announced, the press conference is starting. And at the press conference, the president of the ECB, namely Mario Draghi these days, is going to read the statement of the Governing Council and going to take questions from economic press representatives from all over the world. That is where the euro travels the most, because volatility is heightened at that area. You never know what the guy might say. I mean, they may cut the rates, and 45 minutes later he may come at the press conference and say, well, we cut the rates, but it is our last cut in probably the next 10 years from now or 2 years from now. And all of a sudden, if euro US dollar moves to the downside on the first reaction, the second reaction will be a move to the upside. On the Fed, the release is being called the FOMC statement, and FOMC stands for Federal Open Market Committee. So basically, FOMC statement. And it is important to note that the Fed is having a press conference every 2 or sometimes even 3. So the press conference is every 2 meetings. So it's a bit more different in the United States. On the press conference, stat projections are being revealed, inflation projections, jobs numbers, and it is discussed every possible decision that has been taken during the FOMC statement. Between the FOMC statements, there are minutes as well. So there are minutes as well. These minutes are also in Europe, but they are far more important in the United States than in Europe, because of course the status of the US dollar as being the world's reserve currency. Besides this, the press conference, which is all that matters, the next thing to consider is of course the CPI. The CPI or inflation. Why? Because the mandate of every central bank is to keep inflation below or close to 2%. Well, if inflation or the CPI is released during the month and it is released way lower or higher when compared with the mandate of the central bank, then expectations are growing that the central bank is going to act on the rates and on the monetary policy on the next meeting. So on the euro US dollar and between the ECB and Fed, the CPI, inflation, is really, really important. And then, of course, beside the CPI, in terms of importance, I would say, in the United States, it's represented by the non-farm payrolls or the jobs data. Non-farm payrolls or the jobs data. And the jobs data is not that important in Euro. I don't know why. Volatility is not there, but in the United States volatility is high. Why? Because in the United States, or the Fed also has the mandate to create jobs. And of course then the PMIs will round the table if you want. PMIs are being released in Europe, services and manufacturing, and in the United States are being called ISM. Basically it is the same thing, the ISM, only that it is non-manufacturing or manufacturing, and the ISM stands for Institute for Supply Management. This is what influences Euro-US dollar pair, and if you understand this event, or if you are focused on this event, it is virtually not possible to be taken by surprise. Thank you for being here and have a great day. Bye bye.